anywhere in the Midwest. Your host is Jim Crowley. This is Slickfish Radio. And just like that, we're live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Slickfish Radio. I'm going to put on, in case you guys want to comment. Guest tonight is Dustin Wilks from, he hosts a show. I think it's like his 11th season now of hosting the show, Catching Bass with Dustin Wilks. Just one of my favorite guys in the industry. Just such a nice, humble guy, and one of the best explanation bass fishing shows on television today. He basically just lays it all out there, tips and techniques and everything. I always enjoy watching the show, and it's on numerous occasions. Donald Haas just came in right now. Good evening. Hi, Donald. How you doing? Glad to have you here. Anybody else? Please feel free to comment, ask questions, do whatever you want. I want to thank our friends over at Shields in Springfield, Illinois. Thank you to all the people who came out at Fish Fest. Holy cow, that was crazy at the beginning of March. That was so much fun. I know I'd said something on the last show, but oh my goodness, that was so much fun. Had a great time seeing everybody out there. And Shields is a great one-stop shop for everything that you want in the outdoors. Our friends from Lure Parts Online, as I said, we're going to be talking a little bit after we get done with Dustin, we're going to be talking a little bit about that new Pinpoint minnow. I'll go into depth a little bit about that and a couple other baits that we have coming on the Bass Academy line. But our friends from Lure Parts Online, always a big help to us. Also, our friends at Cast King. We're going to be giving a discount code, as we always do at the end of the show, 20% off discount code for all of you from Cast King at the end of the show. So make sure you stay tuned to that. Also, our friends at Mudhole, I have a new rod building video coming out tomorrow night on my YouTube page at 6 p.m. And what we're going to be doing, or what I'm going to be doing, is I'm going to show you how to build with the new Suka 2 handle. Now, if you're not familiar with that, that is blown carbon. It's compressed carbon, and it's a whole handle system. It won Best of Show at ICAST last year. First time that a rod component ever won Best of Show. They won the whole thing. So I built several rods with this already, and I'm going to show you how to install the handle. It's so simple. It's so easy, and makes your rod so incredibly light and well balanced. So if you're interested in seeing how the newest in technology in handles are for rod building, make sure you turn into my YouTube page tomorrow night. We're going to be doing that with Mudhole tomorrow night at 6 p.m. on Jim Crowley Outdoors on YouTube. Also, our friends from Dakota Lithium. Also, at the end of the show, I'm going to be giving a discount code for Dakota Lithium. Okay. Hey, they have an 11-year warranty. They support the sport of bass fishing and walleye fishing, probably more than any other battery company out there. Really proud. This will be my 4th year running Dakota Lithiums. So thrilled to have them. So all those great people, along with our awesome audience that has joined us tonight, and you always do. You're always great. Thank you for all the nice and comments and emails I get after the show and all that. So appreciative to all of you. As I always tell you, we would not have a show if it wasn't for all of you. So God bless you all. I sure appreciate it. So make sure you stay tuned to the end of the show. We're going to be doing that giveaway, as well as we're going to be telling you some other cool things as well and giving you discount codes. But without further ado, I'm going to bring in a guy that you guys are tuning in to hear tonight, and one of my favorite guys in the industry, Dustin Wilks. Dustin, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, good. How you doing, Jim?
Good. So nice to have you back on again. And this is, as I mentioned a little bit at the beginning of the show, 11th season already, man, for Catching Bass with Dustin Wilks. And now on probably more channels than maybe you even thought. I mean, you and I are both on the same channel on Wired to Fish TV numerous times throughout the week, but you're on a bunch of other places as well. Did you ever think when you started this, you were hoping, but did you ever think you were going to broaden out as much as you have? Because it seems every year you keep growing, buddy.
Yeah, the show's really expanded on Sportsman Channel, World Fishing Network, Wild TV Canada, and Wired to Fish TV. And the Wired to Fish TV is really growing a lot. It's on Sling. You know, it's getting pretty big now. So that's a good thing. And you're there, and your enthusiasm there really, I'm sure they really like that over there.
Yeah, I love, I love what I get to do, and I'll tell you what, it's nice to be on. I know a lot of you people don't know this, but we get to hook up together every year for iCast, and both his schedule is busy and so is mine. I hope sometime that we actually get to do a show together because I think we would really, really enjoy the time in a boat together. That show that you did with Bernie Schultz last year is actually one of my other favorite guys. I've known Bernie forever, and that show looked like so much fun. I'm like, man, you guys were just whacking them that day, and it was fun. And you've known Bernie a really long time, though, haven't you?
I have, yeah, yeah. He's back a long time ago, maybe like 2008 or so. I think it was at Oneida, last tournament of the year. Um, I was catching all these big smallmouth, one right after another, and he was just not that far away. And I was expecting a visitor, and he never came close to me. And ever since then, I was like, Bernie's a pretty good guy not to come over and start casting where all these fish were blowing up because I was in contention for the win there. I was at fourth place, so he kind of kept his distance. But I believe he did good in that tournament as well. So hats
Yeah,
off to him.
he's been at it a long time. Always a good, consistent guy, and one of the nicest guys you want to meet. I look forward to whenever I talk with him. David Troy just plugged in. Hi, David. How are you? I said hi, Jim and Dustin. Hey, thanks for all you guys clicking in. This is great. Always so glad we have such a great audience in that. But yeah, I look forward to seeing Bernie every year. Just because he's always fun to talk to, and he lives in one of my favorite states, Florida, and so it's always cool to talk with him. Now, you've already been out filming for. Are you filming for season 12 now?
I
That's what
am,
you're doing.
yeah. Yep.
And
And I've got,
and you're already catching big fish because it's nice of you to send me pictures about all those big fish while I'm still here in 40-degree weather. I surely do appreciate that. But you've been catching them pretty good already, haven't you?
yeah, the fishing here is outstanding, in the South, in the wintertime, especially. And that's my favorite time to fish. I've already knocked out 5 shows for 2025 because I've got 2 little ones and I don't know. I had one rounded up there. She was feisty, but I got 2 little ones, and I don't know what my schedule is going to be like in the summer. So I'm trying to get as many as I can get done as quick as I can, and so that's my plan. And the fish do bite better. I like a variety of seasons. So
Mhm.
I'll typically have a couple winter shows, a couple spring, summer and fall. I like to diversify lakes, rivers, everything. But the kids are my number one priority, and it was a bass club. You got your experience from the local guys in a bass club, fishing out of the back
Yep.
of the boat for a while, and then
Yep.
you fish a few local tournaments, and the next thing is the Bassmaster Opens, or they were invitationals back then. There was 2 pros, like uh, I think it was. I think it was 150 boats. If
Yeah.
I may have been 200 boats, but 2 pros in the boat, and it was interesting with 2 pros in the boat. Who where you were going to go. It was always very stressful.
Sure.
I
Sure.
was lucky enough to make the classic my first year. I won a boat in my first tournament.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, my dad wanted me to be an engineer, and after the first tournament, he said, "I think this fishing thing might be okay." At first I didn't know what to expect, and nobody really did. And I feel like over the years it's gotten a little bit better every year.
Mhm.
Um, and I kind of figured out a formula that I think my audience really likes, and it's just catching and information and no nonsense. And that's kind of how I've left it the whole time.
Interesting that you put it exactly that way because I was having a sponsor conversation the other day, and I said, there's especially when you get to social media, I've always said I've done it one way for a long time, and I feel like you do. I want to give information. I'm not giving information because I feel I'm the best. I'm giving information because I'm hoping it's going to help somebody. I said I don't care if you agree or disagree with me. I just hope that one way or the other, it helps you catch more fish. But I've never been the guy to go off and do like the crazy stuff or the goofy videos or the things like that. That's just not me. And I understand I'm not going to get as many hits. I'm not going to do that. That's just never been me. I think there's enough fluff and enough noise out there. I don't want to contribute to that. I'm just going to give my take on what I thoroughly enjoy. I love to do, and I hope people continue to come along for the ride. And I think both of you and I are the same way. I mean, I've talked with you enough in person now. and met you enough. You're exactly the same on the show as you are in person. You're very laid back, very giving, very, very nice guy that just likes to talk fishing. And I think that formula, well, there's no doubt that that formula for you has worked for years. And I think it's going to continue to do that because you're just one about solid information. Not only do I respect that, I think your audience respects that. And I think that's why it continues to grow. And I think you feel the same way, don't you?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Jim. It's interesting that Kevin Van Dam now has retired from tournament fishing, and he's having a TV show. So Kevin Van Dam is following in our footsteps here now.
That okay, you know what? Good. I'm glad I got this on recorded because that will be the only time that anybody will ever say that Kevin Van Dam followed anywhere close to my footsteps. It's maybe because he tripped along the way. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, yeah, maybe you and I were the first ones, and maybe Kevin finally saw the light. I think
Yeah,
he's got
yeah, he's been watching, I'm sure.
I think he's got potential. I really, really do.
Yeah, he might do all right.
Oh, I love it, man. I love you. That's fantastic. Hey, what is last year of all the great shows that you did last year, what was one of your favorite ones that you just went, that was just one of those days? Because as I know, I don't know if you get this way, but when I'm filming a show, you have those days sometimes when you're like, man, this is just not clicking, and it's people don't know this, but when you're out there, it's all about budget. You really want to try to do the best you can, but you can only be in certain places for a period of time. And I know, I'm sure you've had them where those days were like, oh man, this is just not coming together. But then it makes you appreciate the days when it does. What was one of your best episodes last year where things just came together and you went, holy cow, this is fantastic?
Well, that's pretty much all of them go like this. I put my boat in the water. I have no idea what I'm going to do. And I've got like 12 rods on my deck, right?
Yep.
And the show evolves from there, and that people can relate to that. So, I mean,
Yeah.
when you turn on the TV, the first thing you're going to see is a cast and a fish catch, right? But it might be an hour or
Oh,
two in,
sure.
or 3 hours or 4 hours the day before I catch my first fish. But when I do catch that first fish, it clues me in, and becomes
Sure.
easier and easier throughout the day. And many times I get my show because I'm going to places that I might not have visited for years
Hmm.
or don't even know, never been there.
Right.
And it takes me a while to figure 'em out, just like anybody. And
Sure.
but one particular one, I was fishing just this massive body of water, and everything looks good. And and I'm running into what I thought was a canal, and it was just a like a short little creek that there was nothing in, and I realized I was in trouble. So I just shut the boat down, and I turned around and I left, and I went into that canal. And I went in the canal, and the water was just not right in there. And I was like, I know those fish have got to spawn in there. And I said, where would they go? And I just sat down there and just thought about where they would go. And it was right where I sat my boat down around the corner. And there happened to be a weed bed there. And I came back out, and the weed bed that I'd sat down in, I must have stirred up the bait fish, because when I came back out of the canal, they were schooling where I had set the boat down.
Oh man.
Yeah, and I caught an 8 and a whole bunch of
Oh.
nice fish there. And what you didn't see on TV is I lost several in that same range, that 8
Oh.
pound range, and it could have been a close to a 40-pound bag day. Like, it was
Oh my.
unbelievable. Um, I just didn't hook them all, you know. That's just the way it goes. But um, that was pretty memorable. But I had a lot of really good shows last year. One was on my home lake in Raleigh at Falls Lake.
Mhm.
It was in May, and it was really cold and windy, and everywhere it was not a fast day. I mean, I fished daylight to dark, and I
Mhm.
typically like to have about 20 fish on each show.
Sure.
And 20 fish in a day is an outstanding day no matter where you go.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like to have that on the show to give people enough examples of how to catch fish. If you have a whole show and you've got only a few fish, you kind of need that repetition and that
Right.
confirmation to teach about this is the right deal. But
Yep.
it takes me from daylight till dark. I don't go, a few hours here or there. It takes me all day. So I'm after tournament hours, and all the way till dark. So the one on my home lake was really good because I hadn't been there in years, and and I figured out stuff that I hadn't fished before when I was there on the water, and it was really good. Ended up with
Yeah.
a big bag, like 28 for 5.
Oh
Uh,
goodness.
yeah, buzz bait and a culprit skinny jerk, and it was a fun day. That was another standout. But lots of good trips. I mean, I had a lot of really good shows this past season.
Well, when you talked about
They're
that
air
40,
they're airing now. Yeah.
yeah, when you talked about that 40-pound bag, I'm not going to ask you where you're at. I guarantee you weren't in Illinois where I live, because that's at least two or three shows here. Uh, that can happen. I had one last year where we were in Minnesota, and I love fishing smallmouth, and so we're up in Minnesota and actually filming with Troy Linder. We film with Troy every year, and went back in this area just before he got there, and nothing was there, and so went back out and got him. Came back, he goes, "Hey, can we check that area that you and I fished last year?" And I said, "Yeah, I was just in there. There was nothing there." I said, "We can go back in there again." We get back in there again, and these fish were pre-spawned, and the temperature had risen 2 or 3 degrees. And I know you'll agree with me, especially with smallmouth, 2 degrees can make a huge difference. He made a cast, caught a 5 pounder, and we filmed the entire show on an area where I just left about an hour and a half later,
Nice.
because
Yeah, that's
there was
crazy.
nothing throwing the same baits. They just weren't there. It was just how, how it gets. It can be a timing thing all the time. We
It
pulled
is.
in when they pulled in, and it was absolutely insanity. And smallmouth get like that. I mean, I know you've caught lots of big smallmouth. They get like that. They can be gone. You come back 10 minutes later, and all of a sudden the place can be loaded up.
Yeah, that's something we've learned, like, fish move a lot more than we thought, and people with the
Yeah.
forward facing, they're finding that out. They're swimming around all the time. And yesterday was a good example. I donated a trip to my daughter's school
Oh, cool.
for raising money for the school, and we went out fishing. And I wanted to make it fairly easy for the fella I was taking fishing, so I wanted to catch him a certain way. He
Hmm.
turned out to be a really good fisherman, but um, so I fished him probably 25 or 30 different places to find the right deal. Like, in every one of those 25 or 30 places, I'd seen fish before, but
Sure.
only one was stacked. And it's a different. It could be a different place every day. So you just can't get frustrated, when you're fishing and not catching them. You just got to keep moving.
You are correct, because it is. I've learned that, especially the older I've gotten. And it's one thing, we'll talk about that a little bit after the break. Just that is one of the best things, that forward facing sonar, I think, has shown us, is that fish are a little more pelagic than we thought that they were. They move around a little bit more than we thought, and that actually, to me, that didn't bum me out when I thought, oh, all those things we learned weren't really true. It actually said, it's that makes a lot more sense to me, because now I'm starting to realize why they did that. Because yeah, they move around a lot more. And so I think, if anything, we just have to be a little bit more. It never hurts to be open minded, and I think especially now, some of the things we're learning, being more open minded is going to be even more in our benefit. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Every time you close down and think you're going to catch them one way, it's not. You can eventually you will. It might take several weeks or seasons. Eventually it's going to be the right thing. It's gonna, any bait can catch a fish at any given time, but there's definitely somewhere on the lake at any time is happening, and getting to that, or getting that pattern, or getting to that school. There's two ways of looking at it: the pattern, where you're fishing for one here or there, kind of junk fishing, if you will,
Sure.
or fishing for schools. And the guys that usually win tournaments are fishing for schools.
Right.
But any given day, there's 100 other guys. To have a good day, you got to be able to junk fish. And because
Sure.
most of the time, you're not going to find the greatest school on the lake. I mean, most of these lakes are huge. It's very hard to find the exact best spot anywhere. So I just enjoy fishing, and I like the challenge of it. And I don't necessarily enjoy idling around for hours looking for them. I like to look for them with a lure.
That's what
So
I
that's
bought all those rods and reels for, man. I want to be casting for, right?
that's right. That's right.
Hey, we're gonna take a break. We'll be back in 2 and 2. As we take this break, just make sure, remember what I told you all in the beginning of this. After we let Dustin go at the end of the show, we're gonna be giving away a bag of the new Bass Academy plastics. So go to Lure Parts online when you have the chance. Look under new products, you'll see it there. Look for the pinpoint minnow. Tell me a color or two you like. I may just pick your name, and you may just be the winner. We'll be back. 2 2. Located in Springfield, Illinois' largest selection of sports and sportswear, hunting, fishing, specialty shops and services, a 65-foot Ferris wheel, 16,000-gallon saltwater aquarium, and industry-leading knowledgeable employees. You don't take chances at Shields, ever. Go to shields.com. At Lure Parts Online, we have everything you need to make your own lures. Pour soft plastics, tie your own flies, build your own rods, and more. Easy ordering ensures you get your products quickly. You can build it all with Lure Parts Online. Achieving affordable innovation through novel concepts and in-house ingenious designs. Cascading cost-effective e-commerce practices directly market to consumers, cutting costs by 30% or more on average. Affordable innovation, superior quality. CastKing.com. Mudhole is your number one resource for custom fishing rods. Mudhole is the world's largest supplier of rod building, tackle crafting supplies, and instruction. They have the best components and brands you trust. American Tackle, MHX, CRB, Pro Products, Fuji, REC, AFCO, Winthrop, and more. It's easy to build your next custom fishing rod at mudhole.com. Believing quality is measured by lifespan and harnessing their unique chemistry and engineering know-how. Dakota Lithium lasts 4 times longer, powering your passion with an 11-year warranty. Find out more at dakotalithium.com. There we go. Come here. Get in here. Yeah, nice fish right there. Hi, I'm Jim Crowley. Make sure you catch my show, Jim Crowley Outdoors, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, exclusively on Wired to Fish TV. Look for Jim Crowley Outdoors on Wired to Fish TV on free ad-supported streaming TV, including Plex, that can be downloaded in the App Store at Apple TV, Roku, Samsung, and others. Hey, we are back with Dustin Wilks, host of Catching Bass with Dustin Wilks, now in its 11th season. Mike Fisher chimed in before here, and when we were talking about forward-facing sonar, Mike said, I think they move away from my baits. Mike, you're not alone, brother. I'm telling you. I've seen that. I've seen that, too.
Yeah.
So, hey, we already have a winner. First one here, Savannah Cobalt Dorsa, Green Pumpkin and Emerald White are what I would try first. Well, Savannah, I will be sending you a pack of that. I will contact you after the show is over. I'll get you get your address, and we will have Lure Parts send you a bag of those. And on top of that, I think I'm going to have them send you our new little weed whipper jig, which you can also use on that is Damiki rig. Just a great new little jig head design that can be used on that with or without forward-facing sonar, but just a great little head that you can use on those little pinpoint minnows. So thank you for that. That's awesome. Glad to have you watching the show as always. That's cool. So, hey, Dustin, get back. We were talking just a little bit about forward-facing sonar, and I think you and I talked a little bit about the show. Not for it, not against it. You have it on your boat. I don't have it on there yet, but I thought it was really interesting about what you said. You use it a little bit differently. You're like me. I don't want to be staring at a screen all day. Yes, I get it that it works. We both know that. But you had made, I thought you had made a really interesting comment. And I think I got to fish with Jim Moyna last September a little bit. And Jim used it kind of the same way. He was looking for isolated weed patches just away from things. And so you said you use it more for looking for things. Explain what you were telling me before, because I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I'm terrible with electronics, but the thing I use it for is just seeing a general depth where most of the fish are.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really seek out one individual fish, or you'll see groups of 3 or 4 fish that are probably bass, and I don't really mess with those. I might make an occasional cast to them, but yeah, finding those isolated pieces of cover, weed beds, and seeing how far you are away from, say, a creek channel or something, so you can make an accurate cast. And I don't like to leave it pointed at anything like a long period of time, because
Sure.
It seems like, and I may be the only one, and I probably am. It seems like the frequency will make them move even faster. Like, I don't know if anybody else has experienced that, or if I'm just don't know what I'm doing, which is highly likely. But I tend not to leave it on them very long. If I see a good piece of cover, I look at it. It's okay. It's 60 feet away, and I throw it over there. Or if I'm fishing a weed line and I make a cast or two and I'm not feeling it anymore, I'm like, oh, I'm too far away, and then see how far away it is, or maybe the weed line end or something like that. But just a general tool for fishing rather than seeking out an individual fish. And there again, I fish more like a fun fisherman. I'm
Right.
not fishing like a tournament fisherman. So I don't care if I win the day. I'm there to have fun. And for me, if I can catch more fish in a way that technology can help me do that, I'm all for it. But I'm not going to not have fun doing it. I'm not going to go out there and stare at the thing and try to catch suspended fish that are 2 pounds or whatever. I'm going for the big fish in ways that I like to catch them.
Yeah, I think that's great. You know, you're not the first person. Matter of fact, I've talked to a bunch of guys that said, and especially when you have several people in the area, I've heard people say that if you have that transducer pointed at them too long, that can happen. I've seen it when I've been ice fishing, where if it's pointed in the same thing, I've seen the school of crappie dissipate. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, it's a very effective tool. I've got Drew Gill, who I've known for a couple of years now, coming on the show in a couple of weeks, and obviously, Drew's very, very good with it, and a lot of those younger kids are. It's going to be interesting to hear some of those guys say too. But I've also seen it on. I've also seen when I've been watching tournaments where a guy is watching him on the screen, and I'll see him hit the pedal and turn that beam away
Okay.
and
See,
throw at
that is
those fish where they
okay.
were. So that makes perfect sense to me. On the very little bit that I've used it, I've experienced that myself. So I don't. You're definitely not in a club by yourself. What I really like what you said is I'm the same way. When I go fishing, I get more jazzed up. I'm still the guy who. When they're on a spinnerbait bite, I love throwing a spinnerbait. I love throwing top water. I love throwing a bladed jig. I, and I've thrown a Demiki rig, and I like doing it. I've caught fish on it without forward facing sonar. I think that little goofy bait right there is it's like when a wacky worm came out, if you remember. I thought that was one of the stupidest piece of plastics that I'd ever seen when it first came out.
Mhm.
And oh my goodness, look at everything it's done. Then the Ned rig came out, and you're like, okay, no, that's the dumbest piece of plastic I've ever seen. And then look what that's done. And the Demiki rig for me has been the same way, especially on weed lines. As that thing falls and goes down there, it's amazing the size of fish that will hit that thing a, a lot of times, especially after you've went over an area and go back over it. And I never had those electronics before. And I think it's fun when you set the hook on a little tiny bait and it can be 4, 5, 6 pounds.
Yeah.
That's just a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. Are you seeing up your way that jig head minnow is replacing a drop shot a little bit?
I can't say that I have. I started throwing it a little bit more last year,
Hmm.
and I started throwing it on a little bit shorter rod. Okay, so I've been throwing it on like a 6.6 medium light action rod. Same thing that I basically throw a Ned rig on. What I like about it is I fish a drop shot, but I'm just that's not one of my strong points. I've always been better with the Ned rig, but I will fish a drop shot. What I like is that I seem to get more bites on the initial fall with the Demiki rig than I have on a drop shot. But
They
I
follow
still
the
know
drop shot all the way to the bottom before they
the
hit it.
original because and I've never used more than a 3/16 ounce head on it. And that initial glide down and you pop up and let it fall down again, that's when I've seen the most strikes on it. Now I know guys who would fish a drop shot over just about anything when they have the water clarity that does it. But I this little thing and whoever ton of companies obviously make them out there right now, but it's been a fun little bait. It's gotten to the level with me of confidence where after I go over an area with say maybe a jig on a grass line or a Tokyo rig, and then I can
Mm.
throw that thing back afterwards, I might get 2 or 3 more bites after that on that little thing. It's funny going from 17-pound fluorocarbon and a half to 3/4 ounce jig, dropping down to 8-pound line and that little thing, and then
Oh
catching a
yeah.
bigger fish. But it works. What have you seen the difference where you are in those two things?
I honestly haven't even tried 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 a jig head minnow or Demiki rig. I haven't even tried it. But
Have you fished a drop shot a lot
I
though
fish a
before?
drop shot, yeah, smallmouth fishing. So
Yep.
usually, usually if I'm smallmouth fishing and I throw a drop shot, it's a 1-2 punch. I'm in an area with a lot of fish that I found with a jerk bait or a spinner bait or top water, and there's a good percentage chance that I can just pitch a little drop shot out there and catch some more fish. or like that isolated weed patch deal, like I
Hmm.
was recently up north with the forward facing, and the weed patch distance for a drop shot, knowing how far it is and making the perfect cast. I mean, it was not seeing the fish, but throwing in there and knowing exactly how far away that spot is from the boat. It makes you so efficient
Sure.
that it's really good. And the thing that I liked most about it was watching fish come up out of weed beds to hit top
That
water.
yeah.
That is cool to see the fish come up and eat the topwater bait now. I'm not gonna sit there and doodle something in front of one, very much, if I see one that they're a smallmouth is so aggressive.
Yeah.
Like if they see it, I mean, they're pretty much gonna eat it. I mean, they're that aggressive when, not all the time, but in the heart of the summertime when they're on their feed, they're just there to eat. That's all they do is eat. And it's a fun thing to do, catch those things.
Now if I'm not mistaken, you've been with Yozuri and Culprit for quite a few years, right? And
That's
there's a walking bait that I can't remember the name of it that you throw from Yozuri, but I think it's a smaller one. But is that one of your favorite? I love walking baits for smallmouth. Is that one of your favorite smallmouth baits?
Yeah, my little girl's dancing in the doorway over there trying to
Well,
distract
get
me.
her back on. She's tried to get on a
she's,
couple times. Get her over here.
she's, she's run away. But yeah, that little top water bait is a Yozuri 3DRX pencil,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's only like it's a little less than 3 inches. I make some adaptations to it. I add 2 or 3 suspend dots to the back, but I take a Dremel tool and shave some of the
Yeah.
paint
Nice.
off. Stick the suspend dots on there, and then I epoxy over it, and I add a feather tail. And whether you know that stuff to
That
me
feather
gives me a
tail
lot
makes a
more
difference.
confidence, and I can throw it on casting gear a little easier with a little bit
Yep.
of weight on the back, and I upsize the hooks a little bit. That's a really good bait, and also they have a little popper that was unbelievable. I don't know if your audience had seen my show that I did up north. Um, I did a couple of them, but this little popper, it was pouring down rain one day, and this little Yazuri 3DRX popper, I throw it, and I was throwing it on a spinning rod, just because my other arm was wore out from fishing spinner baits and jerk baits all day. I'm like,
Oh, I'm
I'm
so
just gonna,
sorry about that. I'm so
yeah,
sorry.
that's bad. But in the pouring down rain, a
Yeah.
fairly clear topwater bait in that clear water. You wonder how a smallmouth can find it that easily. And it only took a pop or two, and they were on it like that. And the best thing I can figure was there was a mayfly hatch going on.
Yep.
I was thinking maybe that the mayflies were having a hard time taking off. And I don't know what
Me
the
too.
water looks like from below to look at the surface when it's raining, but I imagine, I don't know, maybe it makes a mirror. I don't know, but they could find your bait incredibly well in the pouring down rain. When I always thought, you needed something gaudy, but that's definitely not the case. And I learned that this year with that little popper. It was incredible. We did a whole show with it, or partly that bait. But I could have done like 5 shows. Well, those days with the smallmouth,
Yes.
you could do
What am
shows
I
for
gonna
days.
use next? What am I gonna use
Yeah,
next?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that was a fun deal with that bait. And then
When you shave that bait, did you put the baits on the back to make the bait sit up a little bit more in the water so you could walk it a little bit easier? Is that why you did that, or just to add casting weight?
Casting weight mostly because it'll walk really good on
Okay.
lighter stuff, but it walks kind of flatter. If
Mhm.
you if you weight it in the back, it has a little bit more splash, a little bit more like aggressive. Sitting flat on the surface, it's more of a skating
Mhm.
action, a little bit more finessey. So they both, with and without making the modification is a good it's a good
Now,
bait.
other question for you. I do that a lot on top waters, but especially on my jerk baits for smallmouth and really, really cold waters, add that feathered treble in the back. That to me makes a huge, huge difference. Have you seen that? Have you seen that as well for smallmouth, adding feathered trebles on the back of certain baits?
I've not fished for smallmouth too much in cold water,
Okay.
so I've not tried that very often with the feather on a jerk bait. In the summertime, they just what I've seen is they want speed.
Yep.
The faster, the better, and there's groups of them and they're competitive. The faster you bring it, the more they want it, the harder they get it, and the deeper they get it in their mouth too. If you fish it slow, they'll grab the back treble, but if you fish it fast, they'll eat it.
Let's just kill the whole thing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I
They're,
know.
they're fun fish to catch.
It is, and and I know you've seen this too, especially fishing up north. Were you fishing Ontario when you were saying that when you did that?
Yes.
Yeah, and when the water is either that light copper color or it's really clear, and you have them chasing the top water, and then there's 2 or 3 or 4 behind it trying to compete with them. Dude, I don't know, I'm sure it does it to you, I know it does it to me, but I still get like I'm a kid in a candy store, man. I get freaking shaking. It's like, "Man, get the camera, it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen." It's just that gets they are such an exciting fish. The anticipation fishing for smallmouth to me is almost as exciting as because when it happens, it's gonna fricking happen. It's done. That switch gets turned on and they start rocking. And that to me is probably still why it's always been my favorite fish. Still is. But is that something I've always said you made a comment earlier, you go, okay, when we film a show, you like 20 largemouth. I always looked at it as I need at least 15 largemouth. If I do a smallmouth show, I can get away with 12 because they fight harder and longer.
Oh, they do. Yeah. It's like, I had to tell my editor, I said, you're going to have to clip out like half these fights because we're going to have more fish in here because you know, giving tips the whole time. And it's you got 5 minutes to do a tip on a smallmouth, especially on a spinning rod. But
Oh yeah.
if you catch them on a spinner bait or a flipping stick, you can still manhandle them. But
Yep.
usually the techniques that you use for smallmouth are a little bit lighter action, so they do. But if you put them on a big heavy flipping stick, they're not so bad. If you put them on 20-pound fluorocarbon, a big flipping stick, and a jig
Yep.
and a weed head, you can get them on it if you want to. But they do fight exceptionally hard on
It's so
the
fun.
traditional. Yeah,
It's so
they're
fun. We got on a bite last year where they were hitting bladed jigs really good. Same thing, 17-pound fluorocarbon. You can manhandle them, but the same thing, man. The rod just doesn't load. The rod stops. they
yeah,
just they just knock the fire out of it, and it's throwing a half-ounce bladed jig. You would think with that big hook on the back that they might not get it. They didn't have problem one. You may not catch a bunch of them, but when you got one, it was over 4 pounds, and they about ripped the rod out of your hand. That is so much fun and just
mhm.
such a cool fish. So, hey, before we let you go, tell people, everybody, and again, buddy, thanks for coming back on again. You and I could just talk fishing. I just love talking fishing with you. I said
Oh, we do, right?
I still think your show is without question one of the best informative bass fishing shows on air today because you explain. And I love that. That's how I've always liked to do it. I love watching yours because I know after you whack a big fish, you're gonna get excited about it like I do. You're gonna explain. You're gonna because you want people doing the same thing. And I love how you take the time to explain. So if people haven't seen the show, first of all, y'all need to watch it. And Dustin, tell them all where they can find everything and anything out about catching bass with Dustin Wilks.
Well, the best thing to do is go to my website to find all the air times, catchingbass.com, and they're all there. The current episodes, the most recent, are on Sportsman Channel Sunday at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I'm actually right after Linder's Angling Edge and right before Roland Martin. So that's pretty cool right there to be in
Heck yeah!
front of my hero. I mean, like right
Heck
in the middle.
yeah!
It's like unbelievable to me, thinking about it from when I was a kid to be in between those two guys, or the lenders is all the lenders, but um, and
Well, yeah,
Roland
you
Martin.
you and I feel the same way. I'm glad that I've got to know them. Some of them at least over the last several years, and I think it's pretty cool. I'm the same way. There's one day where my show comes on before or after one of theirs. I'm like, man, I remember as a kid watching it. I never thought that was
Yeah,
going to happen. That's just I
it's
don't
pretty
care how old you get. I get as excited as you do. I'm like, dude, that's bad. We're right on by the Linders. That's cool.
cool. That's why we love it right there. Just
That's
catching
right.
fish. Yep.
Yeah, guys, everyone watching tonight, and after we go live here on Facebook, this is going to be going out on Wire to Fish TV next week. Then it's going to go on our channels on Roku, Fire TV, Amazon Music, iTunes, and Spotify. So wherever you see us and or hear us, thank you so much for watching, and make sure you check out anything and everything that has to do with Dustin Wilks. Honestly, I think he's one of the nicest guys out there. He's and so informative and just good, straight forward information. But probably next time I'll see you is probably at ICAST. We always run into each other there, and I look forward to it. But thanks so much for taking your time again to be on show. It's always my pleasure to have you on. I always look forward to it, and just thanks, man. God bless you and your family, and I really appreciate you taking your time.
Thank you, Jim. Enjoyed it.
All right. Yeah, I'm serious, folks. I'm not just saying that. He is one of the nicest guys. I look forward to seeing him every year at ICAST, and so glad that he took his time. Make sure you check out his show. It is on Wired to Fish TV. Um, it is on Wired to Fish TV, as long with on a ton of other channels right there, and he does an absolutely fantastic job. So we did have a winner. I do want to tell you a little bit more before we leave tonight. If you have a chance, let's give you all some discount codes while we're talking about this. So let's get to some of the discount codes. First, I want to give you the discount code from Lure Parts Online. Here it is right here. And I talked a little bit. We have, if you go to Lure Parts Online, sometime after the show, check out lure making and then go to new products or new stuff, whatever it says on there. You will see a whole bunch of new things that we have come out with in the last couple months. Included that is we've added to our Bass Academy line. You'll see the pinpoint minnow there. There's a couple other baits that are coming out, but there's several baits in the Bass Academy line. You will also see we have a new hover jig that we have out now in basically smallmouth bass sizes and largemouth bass sizes. So, and that is actually the pinpoint minnow right there on a hover jig, deadly. And that little pinpoint minnow, if you can see it, has a flat bottom. This thing glides so good on a hover jig as well as on a Demiki rig, which I showed you here. There is a pinpoint minnow head on it. And again, I'm going to show you that little weed whipper jig right there that can be used on those. Just some really, really great stuff on there. There's some other plastics, there's some other jig heads, all kind of things in there. So there's a discount code for Lure Parts Online. If you decide you want to get anything, go to Lure Parts Online at checkout, put in the code JC Outdoors 10 and you will get 10% off. If you are looking for batteries, nothing better out there than Dakota Lithium. And lithium batteries are expensive, but they do have an 11-year warranty. In my opinion, the best in the industry. Put in that code right there, Slickfish10. You will get 10% off. Our friends over at Cast King, there are big sales going on now. As always, more new stuff coming out. I just got a really cool rod rack from them. Check out their new tackle boxes, their new rod racks. All kinds of stuff in there. Anything you want at Cast King, put in that code JC52AFF. That's 20% off. Anything and everything on the Cast King site. Basically, what I'm telling you is whenever you use that code, you never pay for retail at castking.com. Again, JC52AFF. Plenty of great stuff there. Also want to thank our friends from, we got some more comments coming up here. Man, thank you. Rick, by far the best show. Well, thanks, Rick. Looking forward to seeing you out in the water again this year. Thanks for being on there. Really appreciate that. Let me get back over here to this. All right. I also want to thank our friends at Shields again in Springfield. If you haven't been to that store, it's really an awesome store, folks, and everything, baseball, football. If you like the bicycle like I do, plenty of stuff there. Heck, I haven't bought my dartboard. Everybody at Shields over there in their department knows what they're talking about. If you walk, if you run, their shoe department is awesome, and on again. So thanks to Shields. Thanks to Lure Parts Online. Thanks to Cast King. Our friends at Mudhole. If you have not been to my YouTube page yet, it's Jim Crowley Outdoors on YouTube. We do a lot of rod building and lure building on there, as well as some tips and some other shorts. Tomorrow night, 6 p.m., I'm releasing the new video where I built with the new Sukatu handle. That is the award-winning handle ICAST winner last year from American Tackle. So we're going to show you how to build on that, how to build on a blank on that. It's really cool, and all those components obviously you can get at Mudhole. That's going to air tomorrow night at 6 p.m. on Jim Crowley Outdoors on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to that. Be a cool little show tomorrow night. Not very long, about 10, 11 minutes long, but I think you're really going to like it. It's that carbon handle for the Suka 2 has really raised the bar as far as sensitivity. It's going to change, basically going to change a lot of things for people building their own rods. I don't think there's anything more sensitive out there once graphite goes into compressed carbon fiber. It is absolutely amazing. So tune in tomorrow night, 6 p.m. on YouTube on a Jim Crowley Outdoors page. We have another comment on there. Oh, Savannah, can't wait to see your Suka 2 build. Yeah, it was actually fun, guys. And I actually got just enough glue on there and I didn't stick myself to the table. It's a really, really good build. So I think you guys will really enjoy that. As always, I say this every week. I say this when we put the post out there. Thanks to all of you who watch us on whatever channels you do. The show continues to grow, and it continues to grow because of all of you. I am so thankful for all of you continuing to watch both my shows and continuing to help them grow, because if it wasn't for all of you, quite simply, I just wouldn't have the show. It's just that simple. So I'm very thankful. God bless all of you. Until next time, have a great rest of the week. See you soon.